It was the biggest European engine put in a car since the Second World War.
Imagine a world where engines get so massive they barely fit under the hood, roaring with the kind of power that turns heads. Well, these giants did exist, and they were mechanical masterpieces designed to redefine performance. But which of these cars housed the biggest motors out there? And if the engines were this big, how fast could these cars actually go? Join us as we explore the largest engines ever installed in cars. Number 9. The Fiat S76 Inline-Four engine. The Fiat S76, known as the Beast of Turin, was no ordinary car. It was a machine built for one purpose: to dominate the land speed records of the early 20th century. In 1910, the race for speed is all anyone in the automotive world can talk about. Fiat decided to go all in. They didn't just want to compete, they wanted to obliterate the competition. What they created was nothing short of monstrous. At the heart of this machine was an engine so massive that it left people speechless. The numbers alone were staggering. The engine had a displacement of 28,353 cubic centimeters. To put that in perspective, that's larger than most airplane engines of its time. The bore stretched over 7 inches, and the stroke was nearly 10 inches long. Plus, the power was equally astonishing. 290 horsepower at just 1,400 revolutions per minute. Back then, this was like having the raw strength of a locomotive packed into a car. However, it wasn't just the size that made this engine remarkable. Fiat engineers pushed the boundaries of technology with features that seemed years ahead of their time. The engine boasted a double overhead camshaft system with 4 valves per cylinder, giving it 16 valves in total. Dual ignition added another layer of innovation, with 2 spark plugs per cylinder, powered by a high-voltage Bosch magneto. Fiat had a clear target in mind. They were aiming to beat the Mercedes-Benz, which had already shattered records by reaching 124 miles per hour. To do that, they needed a car that could not only match that speed, but blow it out of the water. By 1913, Fiat was ready to prove their creation could live up to the hype. Belgian racer Arthur Duray took the beast to Ostende, Belgium, for an official land speed record attempt. Crowds gathered to witness history in the making, and they weren't disappointed. The beast roared down the track, hitting 132 miles per hour. It was faster than anything anyone had ever seen, but there was a catch. To claim the record officially, Duray needed to complete a return run within a strict time limit. Mechanical issues stopped him in his tracks, leaving the record unclaimed. Still, the beast's reputation was solidified as one of the fastest machines of its time. Then came the war, and with it, the end of the beast's glory days. In 1919, Fiat dismantled the first S76. The second car, sold to Russian Prince Boris Sukhanov, found its way to Australia, stripped of its original engine. Over the decades, the once mighty car was modified, neglected, and eventually left in ruins. It seemed like the beast's story had come to a quiet, unremarkable end. But this was a car that refused to fade into history. In the early 2000s, British car enthusiast Duncan Pittaway took on the challenge of bringing the beast back to life. He tracked down the surviving chassis and, under mysterious circumstances, obtained what was believed to be the original engine. Piece by piece, Pittaway restored the car, rebuilding components like the double chain drive gearbox and the radiator from scratch. In 2015, the Beast of Turin roared back onto the scene, making a triumphant return at the Goodwood Festival of Speed after nearly 100 years in obscurity. Now, we're going to talk about an engineering marvel that hid its extraordinary power in plain sight, ready to surprise most unexpectedly. Number 8. The GMC 702 cubic inch V12 engine. In 1960, General Motors unveiled something truly extraordinary, a mechanical beast designed to dominate the heavy-duty truck world. The GMC 702 cubic inch V12 engine, famously known as the Twin Six, wasn't just another engine. It was a jaw-dropping creation built to deliver power, endurance, and innovation at a time when diesel engines were starting to take over. However, this gasoline-powered giant wasn't going down without a fight. Engineers took 2 351 cubic inch V6 engines and fused them together into one massive block, and the result was a monstrous 702 cubic inch V12 that was as much a marvel of engineering as it was a powerhouse of performance. By sharing 54 interchangeable parts with the smaller V6 engines, it was surprisingly easy to maintain for something so colossal. With a bore of 4.5 inches and a stroke just under 3.5 inches, it roared to life, producing 275 horsepower at only 2,400 revolutions per minute. Its 630 pound-feet of torque hit hard at a low 1,600 revolutions per minute, making it perfect for hauling heavy loads without breaking a sweat. Weighing nearly 1,500 pounds, the Twin Six was a force of nature. Every part, from its one-piece cast-iron block to its 200-pound forged steel crankshaft, was built for rugged performance. The Twin Six found its home in GMC's 7000 and 9000 series trucks. Whether pulling massive loads or powering through industrial tasks, these trucks were built to handle the toughest jobs. But there's more. In the American Southwest, it found a second life, driving irrigation pumps. Farmers relied on its reliability and raw strength to keep their crops watered, trusting the Twin Six to perform day after day in punishing conditions. GMC promised something almost unheard of at the time. This engine could run for 200,000 miles without needing a major overhaul. In an era when gasoline engines struggled to match diesel reliability, the Twin Six stood out as a symbol of durability. Its secret was conservative power output relative to its size, which reduced mechanical stress and kept it running smoothly for longer. However, every giant has its final chapter. By 1965, GMC stopped producing the Twin Six. The company turned to the 637 cubic inch V8 engine, which offered similar power in a smaller, more efficient package. The shift toward diesel engines for heavy-duty applications further pushed the Twin Six into the shadows. For a while, it seemed like this engineering marvel would be lost to history. Then came the resurgence. In recent years, the Twin Six has captured the imagination of car enthusiasts and custom builders alike. Its rarity and unique design make it a prized find, inspiring projects that showcase its incredible potential. One of the most famous is the Blastoline B702, a custom roadster that turns the engine into the star of the show. Companies like Thunder V12 LLC now specialize in restoring and enhancing these engines, breathing new life into a machine once thought to be retired forever. As the Twin Six roared through the world of heavy-duty engineering, another powerhouse was quietly preparing to make its mark. Number 7. The Cadillac 500 cubic inch V8 engine. In 1970, Cadillac introduced something truly monumental, the 500 cubic inch V8 engine. This powerhouse set a record for displacement in mass-produced gasoline engines for passenger vehicles. It was bold, it was big, and it was designed to deliver the kind of smooth, effortless power that Cadillac was known for. At a time when luxury meant more than just comfort, this engine redefined what it meant to own a Cadillac. The late 1960s were an era of change and ambition, and Cadillac wanted to make sure its flagship models led the way. The Eldorado, which had adopted a front-wheel drive layout in 1967, was the focus. Cadillac engineers took the already impressive 472 cubic inch V8 and gave it a significant upgrade. By increasing the stroke from just over 4 inches to almost 4 1/3, they pushed the displacement to an impressive 500 cubic inches, or 8.2 liters. The goal was simple: to create an engine that could deliver unparalleled torque for a car that demanded nothing less. This engine was a giant in every sense. With a bore of 4.3 inches and a stroke of just over 4.3 inches, it offered precise engineering and massive performance. Operating with a 10-to-1 compression ratio and a 4-barrel carburetor, it produced 400 horsepower at 4,400 revolutions per minute, and an astounding 550 pound-feet of torque at 3,000 revolutions per minute. That kind of power was all about effortless acceleration and the kind of smooth performance that made driving a Cadillac feel like gliding on air. Initially, this engine was exclusive to the 1970 Eldorado, Cadillac's flagship luxury coupe. The front-wheel drive system, paired with the massive torque of the 500 V8, created a driving experience that was as refined as it was powerful. In the years that followed, Cadillac expanded the engine's availability to other models, including the DeVille and Fleetwood series, solidifying its reputation as a cornerstone of the brand's lineup. However, there was more to the story. The early 1970s brought a new challenge: stricter emissions regulations and growing concerns about fuel economy. Cadillac had to adapt. In 1971, the compression ratio was lowered to 8.5 to 1. and by 1974 it was further reduced to 8.25 to 1. These changes allowed the engine to run on lower-octane unleaded gasoline while meeting the new emission standards. However, they came at a cost. By 1976, the once mighty engine produced 190 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque, far from its original glory. Despite these changes, the 500 V8 remained an engineering marvel. Cadillac had designed the engine with innovation in mind, using high-nickel content cast iron for the block to provide strength while keeping weight down. Lightweight components like aluminum intake manifolds further enhanced its efficiency. These design choices reflected Cadillac's commitment to balancing power, durability, and sophistication. Now prepare to encounter an engine so advanced that it shattered records and rewrote the rules of what a car could achieve. Number 6. The Bugatti Chiron engine. The Bugatti Chiron, unveiled in 2016, is powered by an 8-liter quad-turbocharged W16 engine that seems almost like a miracle, delivering an astonishing 1,479 horsepower. This powerhouse represents the peak of internal combustion engine innovation in the hypercar world. The story of this remarkable engine begins in 1997 when Ferdinand Karl Piëch, chairman of the Volkswagen Group, dreamed up an 18-cylinder engine while traveling on Japan's Shinkansen high-speed train. Although the 18-cylinder concept never materialized, it evolved into the W16 configuration, aligning with Bugatti's historic reputation for 16-cylinder engines. Developing the engine was no small feat. Over 3,500 individual components had to be meticulously designed and assembled by hand. By 2001, the first prototype roared to life, delivering 987 horsepower for the Bugatti Veyron, the Chiron's legendary predecessor. While the Chiron's W16 shares the same 8-liter displacement as the Veyron's engine, it incorporates significant upgrades that push its performance to new heights. The engine produces 1,479 horsepower at 6,700 revolutions per minute and 1,180 pound-feet of torque, available between 2,000 and 6,000 revolutions per minute. To deliver such extraordinary power seamlessly, Bugatti engineers developed a 2-stage turbocharging system with 4 oversized turbochargers. At lower revs, only 2 turbos are active, ensuring smooth acceleration. As the engine speed increases, all 4 turbos engage, eliminating lag and unleashing relentless power. Cooling such a beast was one of the greatest challenges engineers faced. The Chiron's advanced cooling system uses 10 radiators to manage the immense heat generated, ensuring the engine runs efficiently even under extreme conditions. A dual fuel injection system with 32 injectors precisely delivers fuel to each cylinder, maximizing combustion efficiency and ensuring the engine operates smoothly and reliably. When paired with the Chiron's 7-speed dual-clutch transmission and all-wheel drive system, this engine transforms into a performance machine that defies belief. The Chiron accelerates from 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 2.4 seconds and reaches 124 miles per hour in 6.5 seconds. From 0 to 186 miles per hour, it takes only 13.6 seconds. Its top speed is electronically capped at 261 miles per hour due to tire limitations, yet even at that speed, the Chiron maintains astonishing stability and control. Bugatti didn't stop with raw power. They introduced innovations to ensure this engine delivered consistently and safely. A standout feature is the Bugatti ion current sensing system, which monitors each spark plug for knocking or misfires. This real-time feedback allows for instant adjustments, keeping the engine running at peak performance under all conditions. The W16 engine has been the heart of Bugatti's hypercars for nearly 20 years, setting benchmarks for performance and redefining what's possible in automotive engineering. However, the next vehicle was powered by an engine so audacious and untamed that it would become the heartbeat of an unstoppable American legend. Number 5. The Dodge Viper's 8.4-liter V10 engine. This one is a bold, unapologetic statement that American muscle cars are here to dominate. With its massive displacement and thunderous power, this engine redefined what it meant to be a sports car. Let's rewind to the early 1990s, a time when Dodge wanted to make waves in the automotive world. Their vision was to create a car so outrageous that it would leave competitors gasping. The answer came in the form of a V10 engine that had never been seen before. Engineers started with Chrysler's trusty 5.9-liter Magnum V8 and thought, what if we add 2 more cylinders? The result was a 90-degree V10, and when it debuted in the 1992 Dodge Viper RT10, it was like unleashing a wild animal onto the streets. 400 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque made sure no one could ignore it. However, Dodge wasn't about to settle. They had a reputation to uphold, and the Viper had to keep pushing the boundaries. By 2008, the V10 had evolved into something even more monstrous. Engineers expanded its displacement to 8.4 liters, making it one of the largest naturally aspirated engines in production. They didn't just make it bigger, they made it smarter. Variable valve timing and redesigned cylinder heads brought the power up to a staggering 600 horsepower with 560 pound-feet of torque. The 8.4-liter V10 was as much about precision as it was about raw power. Crafted from lightweight aluminum alloy, the block and heads reduced weight while improving heat dissipation. The engine had a bore just over 4 inches and a stroke of nearly the same, giving it a total displacement of 8,382 cubic centimeters. A 10.2-to-1 compression ratio ensured it balanced efficiency with unrelenting force, and with a sequential multi-point fuel injection system, it delivered fuel with pinpoint accuracy. The traditional overhead valve setup with 20 valves gave the Viper its distinct growl, a sound that could send chills down your spine. When the Viper hit the streets with this engine was ferocious. In 2013, the SRT Viper cranked out 640 horsepower at 6,200 revolutions per minute and 600 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 revolutions per minute. This meant it could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in a blistering 3.5 seconds and blast past 200 miles per hour at full throttle. It was a car that demanded respect and left everything else in its dust. However, like all legends, the Viper's story eventually came to an end. In 2017, Dodge closed the chapter on the Viper, and with it, the 8.4-liter V10. Yet, even after production ceased, this engine's legacy only grew. Car enthusiasts around the world still marvel at its audacity, a naturally aspirated engine with displacement and power that dared to stand tall against turbochargers and modern hybrids. We now turn to an engine that ignited a revolution. Number 4. The Chevrolet 454 cubic inch V8 engine. In 1970, Chevrolet unleashed an engine that would come to define the golden age of muscle cars. The journey of the 454 began in the mid-1960s, when Chevrolet's engineers were already making waves with the Mark IV big block series. However, as the demand for bigger and better performance grew, they knew they needed to push the limits even further by increasing the bore to 4.25 inches and the stroke to 4 inches. They created an engine with a whopping 454 cubic inches of displacement. This was about delivering heart-pounding torque and horsepower to a generation hungry for speed. When it debuted, the 454 came in 2 powerful variants, the LS5 and the LS6. The LS5 was built for those who wanted a blend of everyday usability and muscle. It featured a hydraulic lifter camshaft, a 10.25-to-1 compression ratio, and a 4-barrel carburetor, pumping out 360 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. It found its way into models like the Chevelle SS and the Corvette, offering serious performance with a touch of refinement. Then there was the LS6, the king of the lineup, with a higher compression ratio of 11.25-to-1, a solid lifter camshaft, and an aluminum intake manifold paired with a Holley 4-barrel carburetor. This variant was a monster, producing a staggering 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. The LS6 powered the 1970 Chevelle SS 454, a car that became an instant legend. It could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 6 seconds and conquer the quarter mile in 14 seconds flat. These numbers were amazing for the time. The 454 wasn't just about performance on paper, it was about the cars it powered. The 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 became a symbol of unbridled muscle car performance, with its aggressive styling and raw power capturing the imagination of enthusiasts everywhere. Meanwhile, the LS5 variant in the Corvette offered a perfect balance of drivability and brute force, delivering the kind of low-end torque that made every press of the gas pedal unforgettable. Still, even the mightiest engines couldn't escape the shifting tides of regulation. By the mid-1970s, stricter emission standards and the introduction of unleaded gasoline forced automakers to dial back compression ratios and performance. By 1972, the LS5's output dropped to 270 horsepower, and the LS6 was discontinued entirely after its single model year. The era of unrestrained muscle cars was coming to an end. Today, cars equipped with the original 454, especially those featuring the LS6, are some of the most sought-after treasures in the classic car world. Collectors and enthusiasts prize them not only for their rarity, but for what they represent. A time when raw power and bold design ruled the streets. While this engine was making waves, though, another contender was quietly preparing to claim its place. Number 3, the Plymouth 440 cubic inch V8 engine. The 1970 Plymouth Barracuda was a force to be reckoned with. Known as the Super Commando, this engine was built to dominate the streets and strip, cementing the Barracuda's place in the upper echelon of American muscle cars. This beast delivered 375 horsepower at 4,600 revolutions per minute and a thundering 480 pound-feet of torque at just 3,200 revolutions per minute. Its 4-barrel carburetor, paired with a bore of over 4.3 inches and a stroke of 3.75 inches, made sure it could breathe and perform like no other. The compression ratio was set at 9.7 to 1, striking a balance between power and reliability. This engine wasn't just a power plant, it was a statement. Performance was where the 1970 Barracuda truly came alive. With the 440 under the hood, it could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.6 seconds, leaving competitors in the dust. The quarter-mile drag was over in 13.81 seconds, with a trap speed of 103.5 miles per hour. Its top speed of 118 miles per hour was just the cherry on top. The Barracuda's redesign in 1970 was a game-changer. Moving to Chrysler's E-body platform gave it a wider engine bay, making room for power plants like the 440 V8. The new design was aggressive and purposeful, with muscular lines that screamed performance. It was a car built to take on rivals like the Chevrolet Camaro and Ford Mustang, and it didn't just compete, it held its own. The Barracuda's blend of style and substance made it a standout in an already crowded field of muscle cars. The 440 V8 was a reflection of the era's obsession with high-displacement, high-performance machines. In an age where bigger was better, Plymouth delivered one of the most formidable options on the market. Today, the 1970 Barracuda, especially those equipped with the 440 Super Commando, is a coveted prize for collectors and enthusiasts. Its rarity, combined with its iconic design and raw performance, makes it a symbol of the muscle car golden age. Let's now shift our focus to an unlikely contender, an elegant machine hiding a beastly engine under its hood. Number 2, the Mercedes-Benz 450S EL 6.9 engine. From 1975 to 1980, Mercedes-Benz crafted a masterpiece, and the 6.9 quickly became a benchmark for what a performance sedan could achieve. Let's start with what made this car a legend: its engine. Despite the 6.9 name, the powerhouse under the hood was actually a 6.8-liter V8, an evolution of the mighty M100 V8 used in the iconic Mercedes-Benz 600. With a displacement of 6,834 cubic centimeters, this naturally aspirated engine churned out 286 horsepower at 4,250 revolutions per minute. The real star, though, was the torque, a massive 405 pound-feet at just 3,000 revolutions per minute. It wasn't just about brute force. The engine featured a dry sump lubrication system, a high-tech solution that not only prevented oil starvation during aggressive driving, but also allowed for a sleek, low hood line that gave the car its commanding presence. The numbers told the story of a car that was far ahead of its time. This luxury heavyweight, tipping the scales at over 4,000 pounds, could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 7.4 seconds. Back in the 1970s, that kind of acceleration was unheard of for a sedan. Plus, the top speed was an impressive 140 miles per hour, making the 6.9 one of the fastest four-door cars of its era. However, power wasn't the only thing that set the 6.9 apart. It was the way it handled. Mercedes-Benz borrowed high-drop pneumatic suspension technology from Citroën and refined it into something spectacular. This self-leveling suspension system adjusted on the fly, ensuring the car maintained perfect ride height no matter the load. It delivered an uncanny balance between plush comfort and razor-sharp handling, making the 6.9 equally at home cruising through city streets or carving up winding mountain roads. This level of innovation didn't come cheap. When the 450 SEL 6.9 debuted in 1975, it was priced at 69,930 Deutsche Marks, a figure that climbed to 81,247 Deutsche Marks by the time production ended in 1980. With just 7,380 units built during its 5-year run, it was exclusive, luxurious, and undeniably elite. Finally, let's talk about the engine whose legacy spanned decades. Number 1. The Rolls-Royce and Bentley L-Series 5.8 engine. The story begins in the early 1950s, when Rolls-Royce and Bentley recognized that their aging inline-six engines couldn't keep up with the growing demand for power and sophistication. They needed something groundbreaking, something worthy of their reputation. In 1952, development began on a new engine, one that would be lighter, more powerful, and smoother than anything they had built before. The result was the L-Series 5.8, internally named the L410 because of its 4.1-inch bore. With its 90-degree V-angle, overhead valve design, and all-aluminum construction, it was a marvel of engineering, combining power with elegance in a way that only Rolls-Royce and Bentley could achieve. When it first roared to life in 1959, the 6.2-liter L-Series 5.8 made its debut in the Bentley S2 and Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 2. It was a revelation. This engine delivered the kind of effortless power that seemed almost magical, propelling these substantial luxury sedans with grace and ease. The use of aluminum alloy for the block and heads didn't just reduce weight, it elevated the entire driving experience. Suddenly, these stately cars were not only symbols of luxury, but also of dynamic performance. However, Rolls-Royce and Bentley weren't content to rest on their laurels. As the 1970s arrived and their vehicles grew larger and more feature-packed, they decided it was time to take the L-Series 5.8 to the next level. By increasing the bore and stroke, they boosted the displacement to 6.75 liters in 1971. This version of the engine, with its enhanced torque and responsiveness, became synonymous with the brands, powering iconic models like the Bentley Mulsanne and Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. The 6.75-liter engine became a legend. As the decades rolled on, the L-Series 5.8 continued to evolve. In the 1980s, turbocharging was introduced, beginning with the Bentley Mulsanne Turbo. Suddenly, these luxury cars became very fast. The addition of turbocharging brought a new dimension of performance, with power figures climbing to new heights. Fuel injection and electronic engine management soon followed, ensuring the engine met modern efficiency and emission standards without sacrificing its signature power delivery. By the time twin turbocharging arrived in later models, the L-Series 5.8 was producing over 500 horsepower and torque figures exceeding 1,000 Newton-meters, all while maintaining the smoothness that had defined it from the start. The longevity of the L-Series 5.8 is nothing short of extraordinary. From 1959 to 2020, it remained in production, making it one of the longest-running V8 engines in automotive history. Over 61 years, it powered an array of models, from the stately Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud to the high-performance Bentley Mulsanne. Its adaptability and durability cemented its reputation as one of the most iconic engines ever built. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.